Hi everyone. So today we will study about some basic concepts of economics. This is the part of first chapter of statistics. In +1 syllabus we have two parts. One is statistics and another one is microeconomics. So before starting with statistics, there are some basic terms which are given in the first chapter. So today I will be discussing those terms. The first term which we should be thorough is what is economics? What actually economics is? So economics is the combination of two words which are derived from two Greek words, oikos plus nemen, which means household plus management. So the two words are oikos plus nemen. It actually means household plus management. As in a household we get limited funds, right? As a household lady I get limited funds, and those limited funds have alternative uses. I can use those funds for alternative uses like paying rent, paying school's fees and so on. And our wants, the wants of my family are unlimited. We can never say that our wants are limited, we are satisfied, we are contented. No. As a human being, as one want is satisfied, we always move on to the second want. So what happens is, in a household we have limited funds, first thing. Those limited funds have alternative uses, second thing, and our wants are unlimited. So what we have to make? As a household lady, I have to make a choice as to where should I utilize the funds? What are my priorities? Which wants are priorities? So I would like to satisfy the maximum wants of my family, okay, with those funds. Similar is the economy. In economics, we have limited resources, or we say scarce resources. Those scarce resources have alternative uses, and the wants are unlimited. So even in an economy, we have to make a choice. Choice making is the biggest economic problem as to how to allocate the resources so that the maximum wants are satisfied. So what is economics? Economics is the art of studying the behavior of mankind between limited means, which are the scarce resources, and the ends, that are the unlimited wants. And in between these two things, we say that those limited resources have alternative uses. So we have to make a choice. We can present this like I told you that there are limited resources. Right? There are limited resources, but our wants are unlimited. Unlimited wants. Right? So I have written two problems: limited resources and unlimited wants. And these limited resources have alternative uses. So in between them, we have to make a choice. This choice making is the biggest economic problem. Now, so this is what is economics. Now, when we have to make choice as to where to allocate the resources, we should think about economizing the resources. So the second term is economizing the resources. What do you mean by economizing the resources? It means the best use of resources with minimum wastage. The allocation of resources in such a way that the maximum wants are satisfied with the minimum wastage. So this is what is economics. Now economics has two branches. One is micro, another one is macro. Microeconomics is in +1 syllabus and macro is in +2 syllabus. We have two parts in +1. One is microeconomics, another one is statistics, and we have two parts in +2. One is macroeconomics, another one is Indian economy. So here we will first talk about what is microeconomics and what is macroeconomics. Micro means small. It is derived from the Greek word micros, right? So micros, it means small. So when we deal with the individuals, it is a part of microeconomics. But when we deal with aggregates as in economy as a whole, it is called macro. So what is micro? Micro means small or individual. So if we talk about the topics in microeconomics, it is theory of demand, theory of supply, producers equilibrium, consumers equilibrium, and so on. We are talking about individuals. But in macro, we talk about aggregate demand, that is demand by all the consumers in an economy. So this is the difference between micro and macro. So this is the introduction given in the first chapter, that what is economics, what do you mean by economizing of resources, and what do you mean by microeconomics and macroeconomics. So I'll quickly give a recap to these terms. Economics is derived from two words, oikos plus nemen, that is household plus management. So what is economics? It is the study of the behavior of the mankind between limited resources which have alternative uses and unlimited wants. Economizing of resources means the best utilization of resources. Now we come to some other terms which we will be using in whole of the economics. So the first term is utility. Now we need to understand what do you mean by utility. So the first term which we are going to do is utility. What do you mean by this term utility? Utility means ability of a good to satisfy a want. I am repeating, ability of a good to satisfy a want, right? Now in front of you, I have used this marker to write on the board. So this marker has some utility for me because it has the ability to write on the board. My want at this time is to record the lecture for you. So this pen is helping me to satisfy my want. So this is utility. So what is utility? It is the ability of a good to satisfy a want, right? Ability of a good to satisfy a want. Now, the next question is, do I get this pen everywhere if I'm walking on the roads in a natural form? No. There might be some person जिसने इस पेन को बनाया है, ठीक है? So that person has created the utility, ठीक है? Assembled the resources and made this pen. Who is that person? That person is called producer in economics, right? So who is a producer? Producer is a person who creates utility. As an example, we can take कि हमारे घर में we have lot of furniture made of wood, right? But do we get that furniture normally everywhere if we are going in the natural form? No. There are various firms जो पूरा इसको process करते हैं, starting from cutting of the wood, then processing it, then making it into the furniture. So they are producers. What they are doing is they are creating a utility out of the wood. They are making a furniture. जब उन्होंने उसको chair form में बना दिया तो वो मेरे लिए useful हो गया. वो chair can be used to sit, table can be used to keep the things, and I can sit there and write and I can study, right? So this is called creation of utility. The process of creation of utility is called production, and the person who creates utility is called a producer. Now the question arises, why they are doing so? क्यों कर रहे हैं वो? पैसा कमाने के लिए, for the generation of income, right? So now if I put these things together, they form the definition of production and producer. So what is production? Production is the process of creation of utility for generation of income. So I am repeating, it is the process of creation of utility for generation of income. And who is a producer? Producer is a person who creates utility for generation of income, right? So producer is a person, production is the process. Now, a producer is a person who's created utility for the generation of income. How his income will be generated? His income will be generated when we as a consumer will purchase that thing and use it, right? तभी तो इनकम जनरेट होगी. अगर कोई फर्नीचर बनाकर बैठा है लेकिन कोई बायर ही नहीं है, कोई कंज्यूमर ही नहीं है, then how will the income be generated? So I as a consumer will purchase that thing and I will use up the utility value of that good. Taking an example as we've taken earlier, कि the producer has made this pen. He has created utility for the generation of income, and as a consumer I purchase this pen, right? Why I purchase this pen? Because it will help me in satisfying my want. So what is the aim of the producer? The aim of the producer is the generation of income. And what is the aim of the consumer? Is the direct satisfaction of the want. So who is a consumer? A consumer is a person who uses up the utility value of a good for the direct satisfaction of want. I am a consumer at this time because I am using the utility value of this pen for the direct satisfaction of my want, right? And the process of using, when I am using this pen to write on the board, I have written utility. Okay? So when I am using this pen to write on the board, I am using the utility value of this pen, I am using the utility value of this board. So the process of using the utility value is called consumption, and the person who's using the utility value is called a consumer. So, and why I am doing so, that is important for the direct satisfaction of my want. So these are the four terms related, right? Producer is a person who creates utility for generation of income. Production is the process of creating utility for generation of income. Okay, this is for generation of income. Consumption is the process of using up the utility value of a good. Why? For direct satisfaction of wants. Consumer is a person who uses up the utility value of a good for direct satisfaction of a want. And in all these four definitions, I have repeatedly used the word utility. And what is utility? Utility is the ability of a good to satisfy a want. So these are the five terms which we were talking about. I am quickly giving a recap to these five definitions. Utility, ability of a good to satisfy a want. Production is the process of creating utility. For what? For generation of income. Producer is a person who creates utility for generation of income. Consumption is the process of using up the utility value of a good for direct satisfaction of wants. Okay? And consumer is a person who uses up the utility value of a good for direct satisfaction of wants. When we will be studying micro, we will be dealing with these two sets. One is consumer, another one is producer. We will be dealing with these two sets. On one side, we will be first talking about consumer. On the other side, we will be talking about producer. And at the end of the microeconomics, we will be talking about the market equilibrium. So when we say consumer, it is related with demand. When we say producer, it is related with supply. And when we say market equilibrium, it means the equality of demand and supply. So this is what we will be doing in microeconomics. So these are the basic terms which we need to understand, right? So the terms which we have done till yet are economics, economizing of resources, utility, production, producer, consumption and consumer, right? Now, after this, moving ahead to the next term. The next term is savings. What is saving? So the next term which we need to understand, next two terms which we will be understanding now are savings and investment. Okay, so the next two terms which we will be discussing are saving and investment. What do you mean by saving? अगर मैं आपको normally question पूछती हूँ कि saving क्या है? What is saving? You will say कि मेरे पास जो पैसा पड़ा है वो मेरी saving है. Now the question arises, वो पैसा क्यों पड़ा है आपके पास? क्योंकि आपने उसको खर्चा नहीं है. अगर आप उसको खर्च देते तो वो पैसा आपके पास नहीं पड़ा होता. So what is saving? It is that part of income which is not consumed, right? It is that part of your income which is not consumed. A very simple example, so I'll be giving another definition of savings. Now, if you have 500 rupees in your pocket and you go to the market, right? You have to purchase something, some commodities, say worth rupees 300, right? So, आपके पास 500 रुपए है, आपको 300 का सामान खरीदना है, 200 आपके पास बचेंगे. अब आप मार्केट गए, आपने 300 का सामान खरीदा, जो लिस्ट है आपके पास. Besides that, आपको कुछ और 2-4 चीजें नजर आ जाती हैं, एंड आपका दिल करता है भी मैं ये भी खरीद लूं. अब अगर आपने वो खरीद लिया, you will end up spending the some portion of the money out of 200 rupees also, right? But if you will abstain, now the word is abstain, but if you will abstain yourself from consumption, कि भाई नहीं, मुझको इस चीज की जरूरत नहीं है, मुझे ये चीज नहीं खरीदनी है, right? So if you will abstain yourself from consumption, you will end up saving that money. Simple. So what is savings? saving is that part of income which is not consumed. So can I also explain it like this? It is the act of abstinence from consumption. अगर हम कंज्यूम नहीं करेंगे, हमारा पैसा खर्चा नहीं होगा, तो वो पैसा हमारा बचेगा, सेविंग. So that is saving. Now a very important concept of micro as well as macro. It is a simple definition which is the part of the first chapter of economics, but as we are discussing the term here, तो हम उसको दूसरे concept से भी relate कर लेते हैं. So let me come again to this term. What is saving? It is that part of income which is not consumed, right? Or it is an act of abstinence from consumption. If you abstain yourself from consumption, you will end up saving. If I am going to the market, I have 10,000 rupees in my pocket, and if I like a suit worth rupees 5,000, if I will control myself and I will not purchase that suit, if I abstain myself from consumption, I will end up saving those 5,000 rupees, right? Now the question here arises is it good? क्या ये अच्छा है? 5,000 रुपए बचाना, क्या ये अच्छा है? मेरे पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से तो बहुत अच्छा है भाई, मेरे पैसे बचेंगे, आई विल एंड अप सेविंग मोर. मेरे पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से ये बहुत अच्छा है, राइट? बट इफ everyone starts thinking like this, is it good for economy? The answer is no. Sometimes what happens is, what is true at micro level is not true at macro level, or I can say what is good at micro level is not good at macro level. A very simple example of this is the current situation which the world economies are facing at this time, right? See, it is an irony. It is an irony that we all are just spending on the basic necessities of life, right? Because everything is closed, हम लोग uncertain हैं, हमारी incomes को लेकर lockdown है, ठीक है? So we are just spending on the basic necessities of life, and we have a big question: what will happen to the economy? So this is irony. हम तो नहीं खर्च रहे ना, हम फालतू खर्चा नहीं कर रहे हैं, तो अच्छा होना चाहिए, तो बहुत अच्छा होना चाहिए. We will end up saving more. The answer is yes, it is true at micro level, it is good at micro level, but it is bad at macro level. If everyone will start thinking like this, so the process of money generation will come to a halt. I will see, अब मैंने एग्जाम्पल आपको दिया बुटीक का, राइट? उसकी इनकम का सोर्स मैं हूँ. मैंने 5,000 का सूट नहीं खरीदा, उसकी 5,000 से इनकम कम हो गई, उसने आगे जहां खर्चना है उसकी इनकम कम होगी, एंड सो ऑन. सो वंस एक्सपेंडिचर इज द अदर्स गेन, अदर्स इनकम. आई एम सो सॉरी, वंस एक्सपेंडिचर, मेरा खर्चा आपकी इनकम. तो अगर हम सब लोग खर्चा नहीं करेंगे तो बट ऑफ कोर्स इनकम हॉल्ट पे आ जाएगी, ठीक है? तो व्हाट अबाउट सेविंग? सेविंग इज गुड एट माइक्रो लेवल, बट इट इज बैड एट मैक्रो लेवल. इफ एवरीवन विल स्टार्ट थिंकिंग लाइक दिस, इट विल नॉट बी गुड फॉर इकोनॉमीज. एनीहाउ, so what is saving? Quickly I will repeat, it is that part of the income which is not consumed, or it is abstinence from consumption. Now the next term is investment. In economics, investment is very simple. It refers to increase in capital stock of an economy. That is, it is that expenditure which helps you to generate income. जो आपकी income generation के process में जो खर्चा help करता है, उसको हम क्या बोलते हैं? Investment, right? So the other two terms which we did are saving and investment. So a quick recap: economics, ठीक है, सिंपल, हाउसहोल्ड प्लस मैनेजमेंट. तो इकोनॉमिक्स में हमारे 3 कैचवर्ड्स हैं: लिमिटेड रिसोर्सेज, ऑल्टरनेटिव यूजेस एंड अनलिमिटेड वॉन्ट. सो वी हैव टू मेक अ चॉइस. इकोनोमाइजिंग ऑफ रिसोर्सेज इज द जुडिशियस और द बेस्ट यूज ऑफ रिसोर्सेज विद मिनिमम वेस्टेज, राइट? नेक्स्ट इज यूटिलिटी. इट इज द एबिलिटी ऑफ अ गुड टू satisfy a want. Production is the process of creation of utility for generation of income. Producer is a person who creates utility for generation of income. Consumption is the process of using up the utility value of a good for the direct satisfaction of want. Consumer is a person who uses up the utility value of a good for direct satisfaction of want. Saving is that part of income which is not consumed, or it is an act of abstinence from consumption. Investment is that expenditure which leads to increase in capital stock of an economy, or which helps in the generation of income, right? So the next term which we will be discussing today is economic activity. What do you mean by economic activity? Okay, what do you mean by economic activity? The activity is related to the use of scarce resources, limited resources, start of the chapter, are called economic activities. And putting it in simple terms, economic activity is that activity which helps in the generation of income or which we do for our earnings. जो activity हम पैसा कमाने के लिए करते हैं, money से related है, पैसा कमाने के लिए mainly earning के लिए करते हैं, that is called an economic activity, right? Non-economic activity कौन सी है? जो इनसे दूसरी activities है. Now everyday whole life, पर पूरा दिन सुबह से शाम तक हम बहुत सी एक्टिविटीज परफॉर्म करते हैं, राइट? Now listen to me, this is very important, very very important. Now if I am teaching, it is for commercial purposes, right? I am doing it for earning, that is an economic activity. When I teach my brother, my son, my sister, that is not an economic activity. मैं घर में अपने बेटे को पढ़ा रही हूँ, वो एक मदर की सर्विसेज हैं towards a child, right? I am cooking for my son, that is not an economic activity. But if I am a chef and I am cooking and I am getting salary for that, that is an economic activity. So what is economic activity? It is the activity related to the use of scarce or limited resources, or it is an activity which we do for earning our income. There are 3 main economic activities, otherwise 5 economic activities. The first one is, I will write the first 3 economic activities, CPD. CPD, consumption, production, distribution. Next, investment and exchange, IE. CPD, consumption, production, distribution, investment and exchange. ठीक है, IE, CPD, IE. So these are the 5 economic activities which we will be talking about. We have already talked about consumption. We've already talked about production. ठीक है, now talking about distribution. We all know there are 4 factors of production. When those 4 factors of production are combined, the income is generated, which we call GDP. Now that income has to be distributed among 4 factors of production in the form of rent to land, wages to labor, interest to capital, and profit to entrepreneur. This distribution, this division of the income generated among 4 factors of production is called distribution. I am repeating, C for consumption, P for production, and D for distribution. So consumption and production we've already discussed. What is distribution? It is the distribution of income generated amongst 4 factors of production, that is rent to land, wages to labor, interest to capital, and profit to entrepreneur. Investment we've already talked about. And what is exchange? It is simple, the sale and purchase of goods and services. That is called exchange. I am giving my services and I am getting fees for it. It is exchange. If I am selling this pen, I will give this pen to you. You will give me money for that, the price of this pen. That is called exchange, right? So these are some basic terms which are the part of the first chapter of statistics, okay, concepts of economics. So in first lecture I have just discussed about the basic terms. In the next lecture we will come to what do you mean by statistics, and we will start with that portion. So I'll quickly sum up the whole lecture. We started from the term economics, that is it has 3 catchwords: limited resources which have alternative uses and they are used to satisfy unlimited wants, so we have to make a choice. The second term which we discussed was economizing of resources. It is the optimum utilization of resources with minimum wastages. Next term was utility, ability of a good to satisfy a want. Producer is a person who creates utility for generation of income. Production is the process of creation of utility for generation of income. Consumer is a person who uses up utility value of a good for direct satisfaction of wants. Remember, producer for generation of income, consumer for direct satisfaction of wants. Consumption is the process of using up utility value of a good for direct satisfaction of wants, right? And We've also discussed that there are two branches of economics, micro and macro. Micro deals with individuals, macro deals with aggregates. Then the next term was saving. It is that part of income which is not consumed, or it is an act of abstinence from consumption. Investment is that expenditure which leads to increase in capital stock of an economy, or which helps in the generation of income. Economic activity. Those activities which are related to the use of scarce resources, or those activities which we undertake to earn our living. CPD, consumption, production, distribution, investment, exchange. We've talked about consumption, production, investment. Distribution is the distributing of national income generated among four factors of production in form of rent to land, wages to labor, interest to capital, and profit to entrepreneur. And exchange is simply the exchange of goods and services. So these are the first basic terms. That's it for today. We will be discussing about statistics, the definition of statistics and its limitations and its importance in the next lecture. Thank you.